Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Sauce Walker. I'm back with another video. I actually have two separate videos. The title of the first one, it's called Three Disturbing Car Breakdown Horror Stories. So, I don't know if I'm gonna be scared from this, but I should be highly disturbed. We about to get into it. Use of this narration audio for any projects, including animation, without permission is not allowed and will be pursued if necessary. Re-uploading any of these videos to YouTube or other websites will be acted upon immediately. Now, I'm new to this, so this is not my video. I'm just reacting to it for my viewers. I already don't like how I started. You know?
One night driving home from work after a graveyard shift, I got a sudden urge to pee. Like, it was really bad. Painfully bad. I was driving down a quiet parkway with no other cars, so I figured I'd pull to the side real quick and pee in the woods. I put my hazards on just in case that off chance that a cop rolled by. After I finished, I got back in my truck and tried to start it. Instead, all I heard was the sickening sound of a car battery failing to start the engine. I tried at least 5 times before I gave up, not wanting to drain the battery anymore. I left my hazards on and stepped outside so I could be ready to wave someone down in hopes that they had jumper cables. When I did see headlights coming down the road, I went to the side of the road and started waving my arms. The car slowed down and went to pull over to the side behind my truck. As I started walking over to the car, the 2 front doors opened and 2 relatively big guys stepped out. I stopped in my tracks and thanked them for stopping, immediately asking if they had jumper cables. They looked at each other, then back at me, and the driver said, "Nah." The other guy asked, "You stuck?" I said, "Yeah, my battery died." The driver said to give him a sec, he'd call one of his boys. I didn't exactly know how I felt about that. Right away, I found the 2 a little off-putting. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I got gangster kind of vibes from them. The driver got back into his car after he got on the phone.
You got gangster vibes? Like, I don't want to be that guy, but were they black? Were they white? Mexican, Asian? You know what I'm saying? He said gangster vibes. 2 relatively big guys. You know, I don't want to be that guy. Maybe he didn't want to be that guy, which is why he didn't specify on any race. But just for us, in my head, they're 2 black guys just because he said gangster vibes.
I did the same. When I was sitting in my car, I couldn't help but feel I needed to call for my own help. I didn't know how much I trusted these 2. So I called my brother's phone a couple of times before he picked up. It was past midnight after all. I had woken him up with my call, but I told him I was stuck in an emergency and needed his help. I told him to bring jumper cables and to hurry up. He said he'd be over in a few. When I hung up, I got out from the car and waved my arms out to the car behind me. The driver opened his door and stepped out to look at me, and I called over that I had help on the way and it was cool. All he said was, "Aight then," and got back in his car. That feeling of
Am I the only one? You heard him, right? Aight then. You heard him, right? Okay.
danger suddenly exited my body, and I felt at ease. I leaned my seat back so I could relax in the meantime. But soon it came to me that I didn't hear their car pass by. I turned back and saw that their car was still there. It had been almost 5 minutes since I'd waved them off. I called my brother again, who said he just got in the car. I told him to floor it to me and have some weapons ready, because I was pretty sure I was about to be jumped. He said he had his baseball bat in the back seat as usual. Luckily, my truck was only about 5 minutes from our house. Less if he stepped on it. I started to beat myself up for not just holding it in for another 5 minutes. Then this wouldn't have happened. Finally, more headlights appeared coming up the parkway. The approaching car slowed and pulled up behind the car that was behind me. I got out from the car and started waving my arms again. But when I saw 2 of the car doors open, I had a feeling it wasn't my brother. The driver in the first car got out and greeted his apparent goons. They all started gradually making their way over to my truck as they talked loud and cursed at each other. I guess it's worth noting there were no jumper cables in any of their hands. I'm not a lucky person at all, but when I saw the familiar headlights of my brother's Mustang zooming down the parkway towards us, I felt as if my luck had turned around for once. He pulled up his car in front of my truck and he came out with his baseball bat. He pulled out another baseball bat from the back seat that he brought for me. He tossed it to me, and my brother, being the larger, more dominant one, said in a very loud, firm voice, we didn't want trouble and it's best they moved along and let us go about our business. They all backed up a little when they saw our bats. One of the guys laughed. Another one said, we ain't ever said we want no trouble.
Come on, man. Just come out and say it. Are they black? Just say it, man. You heard him? Again?
Upon examining the first car, I realized the guy who was in the passenger seat originally wasn't there anymore. I whispered to my brother to be wary. One of the men were missing. My brother got back in his car to bring his hood up in front of my hood. He fetched his cables and connected them to my battery. I kept watch of the 3 men who were lurking by their cars. Now we waited. My brother very softly called my name and then low-key tilted his head in the direction of the woods. I looked into the woods and saw the man who was originally in the passenger seat and was now hiding in the woods, looking as if he was about to do some kind of sneak-up attack. My brother told me to try the ignition. So, with one faithful turn of the key, the engine to my truck started. I got back out of the truck to literally guard my brother as he unplugged the cords from my battery and put them back in his car. We whispered to each other our plan, and that was for him to throw it in reverse as soon as we got in our cars, and I'd step on it back onto the road. After closing our hoods, we took one last look at the men huddled by the 3rd car, looking at us. Then we ran for our respective vehicles and stepped on the gas. My brother floored it in reverse. I waited to give him enough space before I floored it as well. As I did, I heard the shattering of my back windshield as a brick landed on my dash. Then I heard the distinct sounds of gunshots, which continued to shatter the remainder of my back windshield. I ducked down as low as I could get while still getting a view of the road. The 2 of us managed to flee the scene unharmed, and they didn't chase us. We went straight home to tell our 65-year-old dad, who claimed he was 100% sure we just had an encounter with a local gang. Our dad also told us not to take that specific parkway at night because it's not a safe road. I can only guess they wanted to rob me blind, and they didn't take too kindly to us waving bats in their faces.
Well, that was the end of the first story. I wasn't disturbed. Well, I'm not going to call him racist or anything because he didn't say anything racist. But your grammar, when you said what they said, indicates that those are black men. On to story number 2, though.
I've done a great deal of camping in my life, mostly solo
Is this the
camping
same
out
guy?
in the wilderness.
Maybe.
Everyone who takes the hobby as seriously as me knows the potential dangers that come along with it. However, there was one thing that happened on a camping trip that I never anticipated. I was in my tent, which sat next to a small, flowing river. My campfire was breathing its last breaths, and I was already laying in my sleeping bag trying to sleep. I started to hear something circling around my tent. At first, it started as big, heavy branches snapping in the distance. Then it turned to closer steps on the forest floor surrounding my tent. I ruled it out as being a bear or a larger animal because the footsteps didn't seem heavy enough. Plus, the fire would more often than not draw such animals away. To be safe, I still stayed inside the tent to refrain from making any noise. But but the steps just kept circling around my tent. Finally, I called out, "Hello?" The steps didn't stop. Now I sat up, ready to take a quick look outside. I unzipped the tent and crawled outside. I still heard the footsteps, but now it seemed whatever was making the footsteps was being more cautious about moving around so loudly. I looked out into the darkness of the forest in the direction the steps were coming from, and very briefly I saw a light. Not just any kind of light, though. It was undeniably a phone screen. It turned off as quickly as it came on. Now I knew there was a person out there circling my campsite. I had already called to them and they didn't respond to me, so that was a very bad sign. Despite my experience in camping and wilderness, I'd never been stalked by a human before, and I wasn't comfortable there anymore. I have a license to carry a sidearm, however, and I always bring it with me when I go camping. I felt it was an appropriate time to pull that out from my bag. I started to pack my things as fast as possible. I can't begin to explain how scared I was as I packed up my sleeping bag and tent. I found myself turning around every few seconds to make sure someone wasn't sneaking up on me. Maybe I wouldn't have been so scared if the footsteps around my camp didn't keep going. When everything was packed, I didn't try to hide the fact that I was sprinting back to my car, which wasn't parked far away. I threw my stuff in the back seat and hopped in, locking the door first thing.
Turn the car on, and as I put it in
drive, the car started to wobble and shake, and I heard a terrible scraping noise. I stopped the car. A low tire pressure alert came on for all 4 tires, and I knew then that all 4 tires had been slashed by somebody. I couldn't possibly move that car without destroying my wheels, so I sat there in a pitch-black forest with the only light being from my headlights. I was afraid to look outside in any direction, for someone could be hidden, watching from any possible direction. I sat there for a few seconds with my whole body shaking. I finally grabbed my phone to call the police. At the same time, I looked in the rearview mirror, and I saw someone standing at the trunk of my car. My heart was in my stomach at this point. I don't know how I didn't scream. I took a deep breath, grabbed the handgun sitting in the passenger seat, opened the door, and stepped out with aggression. I aimed the gun at the person standing at the back of my car, who raised his hands in the air. I screamed at him as loud and aggressively as I could to get the fuck away from my car. I wasn't bluffing, I was ready to shoot him. He backed away into the woods, and once I couldn't see him anymore, I got back in my car and called the police. I told them to come to the dirt parking area for the particular park I was camping in. They said a state trooper would be en route. I called my towing company in the meantime while waiting for the trooper to arrive, all while my body was still shaking and I was still cautiously checking my surroundings. I never appreciated seeing a police car more than when the trooper pulled into the small dirt lot with his lights on, and I finally felt safe to get out from my car. The tow truck came 20 minutes later, and my car was towed to a repair shop. I slept in my car overnight, and first thing in the morning, my tires were replaced. This never stopped me from continuing camping.
Why did he add the heartbeats right there? My heart is not beating in any way. But then again, I wasn't in that situation. But you had a gun, man, you know? I'm not saying just blast off on people, but you had a gun. Could have just sat there with your pole, called the tow truck, you know what I'm saying? Pick up your car, you go about your business, because what was the point of calling the police? What did he do? Nothing. After you told dude to back off, he backed off. You ain't hearing from him no more. But hey, look, for me and you, this is between me and you, not my viewers. I'm sorry. You know, I am talking to y'all too, but this is for the specific person that made this video. I saw your warning at the beginning of the video, and please be cool. You know, I'm not trying to steal your content. Those are your stories. You went through them, not me. I can say whatever I want back here. Because why? I'm sitting here. The room is lit. I ain't got no trees behind me. So I ain't got none of that. So I can't really say nothing, but I can comment for entertainment purposes, you know? And I'm also sharing your story to other people, you know? Okay. That was completely irrelevant, but yeah. Story number 3.
My old Buick used to have issues with the gas gauge. The gauge was off.
It's probably a stupid question, but like, is this one person going through these 3 different situations? Or is it just a narrator, you know, that's just a random narrator reading these 3 random stories?
So sometimes I'd fill the tank completely and the needle on the gauge would still hover around the E. And sometimes when the tank was running low, the needle would sit around F. The needle seemed to decide when
What?
it wanted to work or not. Well, one night after coming back from a vacation and not driving for a week, I guess I had forgotten how long it had been since I'd filled up the tank, because the car ran out of gas on some quiet road in an even quieter town. I didn't want to call my girlfriend because she lived too far away, and I didn't want to be a bother. I got out from the car and looked around my surroundings. There was not much, except for trees on either side and a small house sitting atop a hill to the right of my car. So, that was
Scary
my only
movie
option
setting.
to go for help. I went up the hill to the house and rang the bell. It was 9:30, so it wasn't exactly too late to be ringing someone's bell in this kind of scenario. I waited patiently. There were lights on in the house after all. After a minute, I gave the bell one more ring, but I told myself that would be it. After waiting another minute, I accepted defeat and walked away from the door. As I went down the little walkway, I heard a weird noise that seemed to be coming from the side of the house, like the moaning and distressed breathing of someone in pain. It came from behind a line of bushes. Quite frankly, I didn't feel right snooping over there, so I continued back down the driveway. I did take a look back at the house, and noticed a light upstairs was on now that wasn't on before, and there was someone standing at the window. I could see their head and shoulders. I stared for a moment, expecting them to do something, like maybe come to the door. But they didn't move, and it got weird. So I continued back to my car. I leaned on my car door and called AAA, which was my roadside assistance company. They said they would deliver gas to me within half an hour. It was too hot out to sit in my car, so I stayed outside. I waited around texting people, checking Instagram, and pacing back and forth. When I heard a deep voice go, "Excuse me," my head shot up. There was a guy standing by the curb near the driveway to the house. He was wearing a hat really low and tilted his head down, hiding a lot of his face. He asked me if there was a problem. I said I ran out of gas right here. All he said in response was, "Oh." He turned and started walking back up the hill. Pretty soon he disappeared behind the bushes on his property. He seemed like a very creepy man based on that short interaction. I texted my girlfriend about the whole thing, and she said I should go see what that sound I was hearing behind the bushes was. I
Stupid?
kind of wanted to be honest. So I snuck through the trees next to the guy's house up the hill and went to the side of the house where I heard the noises. I tiptoed up to the wall of the house and then stopped to listen. There were the moans and breathing again. They were coming from a window. I went to the window and tried to look inside, but the blind was down, so I couldn't. The sounds were concerning, though. I lightly tapped on the window and said, "Is everything okay?" I heard someone say in a faint, weak voice, "Help." I stood there thinking about what to do, when all of a sudden the blind kinked open, and I saw a face looking back at me through the window. I couldn't tell for sure, but it looked like the creepy man who came outside. The kink in the blind dropped back down shut, and then the window dropped closed, so I couldn't hear anything else. I didn't care, though. I ran back down to my car, got in, and locked the door. I waited until the AAA truck came, and when they filled my tank, I didn't say a word about what I just witnessed. I just went home and tried to get some sleep that night. I never wanted to see or think about that house again.
Only thing I can really say about that is, let me get this straight. So, you knocked on the door or as he was walking up to the door, you hear some weird breathing by the bushes. Then you get back to your car because nobody answered, you know, and some weird dude just popped up out of the blue in incognito mode and just smooth, you know what I'm saying? He just smooth. What's the problem? Nothing? Oh, okay. Then he disappeared. You wanted to see what the noise was. Your girl told you to see what the noise was. You see what the noise was. You get caught seeing what you see, right? You run back to your car and you're safe now. Okay, that's cool, that's cool. But why go through all that if you weren't gonna do nothing to help? Whoever it was that faintly said help needed your help. Now, if that person is gone, as in deceased, I don't want to blame it on you because you're not the person that put that person in that situation. But you could have did something to help. If you was going to be nosy, why not go all the way, you know? You already took a step in the door. Why not bring your other foot? You know? Why not? Don't make sense to me. That's just like, now imagine, right? Imagine dude caught you. You run back to your car, you lock the doors, boom, you think you're safe. And as you're waiting for the tow truck, he just came and just, you know, break through the window, your door open, now you in the crib. What was you gonna do? Just because you wanted to be nosy. You know, like, I wouldn't have done that. You know, if I'm gonna check it out, I'm gonna go to 100. I said 100. I'm gonna go all the way, the extra mile, the extra step, and try to get that person out of the situation. Not by myself, you know. Call the authorities, let them handle that. Boom. You good. Sit in your car, you good. But I'm not gonna go be nosy, find out that somebody needs help, and then just go back to my car and then go home. That doesn't sit right with me. But, whew, that fly been bugging me. Like, I know y'all can hear it. This microphone picking it up. He just been booming to these lights. Boom, 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 boom. You know how animals get. You know how insects get. You just keep boom, boom, boom. Saw him zoom through here. I don't know how many times he did it. I caught him one time. It's annoying. But, yeah, this is another video. You know? Like, comment, you know, leave any comments on either story. Yeah, either story, that makes sense, right? Yeah. Leave a comment about a story, you know? Say anything for me. I could have killed him right there, but no, I ain't gonna do that. So, after you drop that comment, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share my very few videos to your friends so that I can also become their friends. You know, a friend through a friend, and etc. All right, I'll see y'all later.